Welcome to our last week of class, Library of Things and Seed Libraries. This is a fun one and very relevant and trending in public libraries. There are some really interesting circulating collections in libraries. Think of equipment you might only use once, or you just want to try out of curiosity, or even try before you buy. Some libraries have just super interesting collections like guitars and other musical instruments. They have Wi-Fi hotspots or Chromebooks, laptops, tablets. They lend camping gear, bike locks, binoculars, cookware, bakeware. The list is huge. I've seen giant games like Giant Jenga or Giant Connect 4. That's kind of fun. Golf clubs or other sports equipment. Toys like dolls, hula hoops, croquet. Connected toys or STEM toys. My library circulates STEM kits. Craft equipment like knitting needles or looms or die cuts, things like that. There's yard equipment, leaf blowers, hedge trimmers, pressure washers. There are metal detectors, digital cameras, paper shredders, record players, umbrellas, white noise machines. The list goes on and on. There's just no end to the kinds of things that could be included in a library of things. Here are some ideas that connect library of things to library missions. Every collection in a library should help the library meet its mission, as we've said, or its purpose. We don't collect things because they are things. We've said this before. They provide services that relate to our mission. So some of the ways you can connect library of things to library missions are sustainability, saying that sharing reduces consumption and waste. Accessibility, we lend things to people, or lend things that people need so they don't have to buy them, and provide access to items that many people may never get to experience to improve their lives. There's community involvement, especially in areas of prevalent blight. Give people the tools to improve their environments for healthier living and safer, healthier neighborhoods. Like tool libraries are a good example of this. Maybe business development is part of the library mission. Someone with a business idea might hesitate to buy lots of equipment or tools before they see if their business is viable. They can update their skills without spending business funds on the equipment. So, for example, a bakery considering branching out to catering may try out a chocolate fountain at a library before they buy one. I did know of a library that circulated chocolate fountains. How fun is that? Collaboration. Collaborate with community partners. Check out a telescope and get a free pass to the planetarium, or check out bakeware and get a coupon for the local bakery. There's lifelong learning. It's often part of library missions. So people can learn about new things without putting a lot of resources into that education. So learn how to use an Instant Pot, learn how to use a GoPro, learn how to use a telescope. All of these things further lifelong learning in cooking, technology, astronomy, or whatever else you come up with. Entertainment can be part of a library mission because it's fun to check out board games and telescopes and bird watching kits and to go fishing and all of those things. There's information literacy. Learn how to find and use information in various ways with these different formats. So make connections between the library of things items and other library resources for continued learning. The digital divide. If your community has low connectivity or low bandwidth, provide equipment to improve access to digital information. Skill sharing, learn new skills, teach them to others. Community partnerships, as we mentioned above, goes along sort of with collaboration. Connect patrons to other community agencies. Check out a blood pressure monitor and learn about the health department services. Check out a telescope and find out about the local stargazing club. Check out framed art and learn about the Arts Council. This again relates to collaboration with some of these community agencies. There are also programming opportunities for Library of Things. So just about any kind of equipment in a Library of Things can have a programming component to expand the learning. So those are just some ideas of ways that Library of Things can be connected to library missions. We gave a lot of examples of what kinds of things you could collect, but choosing what will work best in your community and for your patrons comes down to these questions that you see on the screen. Because, just because it's cool or it's fun doesn't mean it's right for your library. So, some things to ask yourself. What is your library's mission? Connect your collection to the library's mission, just like we talked about on the last slide. Do you need general interest things to promote lifelong learning? Do you need fun things like croquet sets and board games? Do you need connectivity devices to close the digital divide and provide access like Wi-Fi hotspots and laptops? Next, what does your community need? Especially needs that are not met elsewhere in the community. Do you need to provide basic internet access and that connectivity we talked about? Or maybe is fishing popular pastime in your community or even an important food source? Then circulate fishing equipment. Is gardening popular pastime in your community or again an important food source? Then circulate gardening tools. What does your community need? What needs are not met elsewhere in the community that you could meet through a Library of Things collection? And next, what will your patrons use? Demographic information can help decide this, and we'll cover that on the next slide. This is also a good opportunity to survey the community and just ask what they'd be interested in checking out from the library. Staff support is important to think about. What, support will people need from staff? Expect patrons to ask for help using the equipment. Or if staff are expected to plan programs relating to it, they need to be able to do that. We'll talk more about the practicalities of things collections later, which includes that storage space. But if you have very limited space, a sprawling collection of large tools might not be the best idea. Budget, of course, is a concern. This is not just startup costs, it also includes repair, maintenance, equipment upgrades to keep up with changes in technology, processing materials because you need boxes, cases, bags, or whatever these items are going to be processed into. There could be storage costs. Do you need to add shelving or rearrange spaces? There are costs involved with those projects. And lastly, growing the collection beyond the starter set of things if that's part of your collection plan. There are some links in the module about these data sources, but demographic data, especially age, religion, ethnicity, languages spoken at home, can be really helpful in figuring out what kinds of things your patrons might be interested in. Are your patrons largely senior citizens, or do you have a lot of teens? The items that those groups are interested in are very different. Seniors might like, blood pressure monitors and handheld magnifiers, where teens are more interested in board games or, technology. If you serve a largely Amish community, they are not interested in technology, but they might be interested in hand tools. So demographic data. School data can be helpful. What's the average educational attainment in your community? What are the graduation and dropout rates in your community? What is the per pupil expenditure in the school district? Are there a lot of private schools in the area? What's the pupil to teacher ratio? What % of students are economically disadvantaged? Do you need to circulate science equipment because the school doesn't have any? Or is the school district well supplied and the library can supplement and complement the school's offerings with equipment that extends the student learning? Some questions to ask when you're looking into the school data. Business, labor, and employment data. What are the biggest companies in your community in terms of numbers of employees and annual revenue? What % of residents are unemployed? What is the breakdown of white collar versus blue collar employment opportunities? What are the top industries of employment? A community with a large unemployment rate may be interested in a collection of circulating interview appropriate clothing. A community where construction is the largest industry may be more interested in circulating tools than birdwatching kits. If the largest company is Ford Motor Company, like here in the Detroit area, maybe circulate car stuff like restoration tools or detailing tools for car buffs. So think about some of those business, labor, and employment data. Housing, what is the average home value in your community? Has that increased or has that decreased in the last few years? Do people, mostly own or rent property? What percent of property in the community is vacant? What percent of homeowners have a mortgage versus those that own their property free and clear? Is blight a problem that needs solving in your community? Give people the tools to fix up their property. Or, circulate framed art for those homeowners. Answers to those questions, again, can help you decide what kinds of things are most helpful and most interesting to the people that live in your community. Household income. What is the average household income? What's the per capita income? How about the median income, which is different than the average? How does community income relate to the state average? Communities with comfortable household incomes might be interested in Library of Things from a, try before you buy standpoint rather than an access standpoint. Communities with economically disadvantaged households may need to borrow things from the library because they don't have access any other way. So know who you serve. The Mosaic USA consumer lifestyle segmentation is one way to get the consumer expenditure categories. If you have access to Gale's Demographics Now database, they provide this information. This is a way to profile your community in terms of how they spend their money. Are they travelers and concert goers? Are they furniture or clothing shoppers? Or do they tend to spend their money more on utilities, healthcare, shelter, or other basic needs? In our community, Plymouth, Michigan, the top expenditure category is transportation. We're located near Detroit, the Motor City, so people spend money on cars and auto repairs and auto maintenance and auto-related hobbies. So you figured out what your patrons want and what they need, and you're ready to buy the stuff. So there are some practicalities to consider. First of all, how will you catalog it? Can you put pictures of the items in your catalog? What materials do you need to process this stuff? Cases, labels, bags, batteries, bubble wrap. How much space will the stuff require to store, and does that space exist, or do you need to reorganize to create that space? How will you hold patrons accountable for replacement and repair costs? Do you need them to sign liability waivers for the tools or things like that? How do you keep the equipment in good working order? And who on staff will be responsible for that? Do you need special sanitation materials like for musical instruments that people put in their mouth or put their mouth on, or telescopes or virtual reality headsets that touch people's faces? And who's paying for the stuff? Do the funds exist, or do you need to fundraise? Do you need to redirect funds from another source? Which collection or service is being discontinued in order to add a library of things? Do you have funds to keep the collection updated, maintained, and repaired in the future? And if not, where is the money coming from? Seed libraries are where patrons can take seeds or leave seeds on a sharing basis for public benefit. Sometimes the goal is helping people be more food secure by growing a garden. Sometimes the goal is to create locally adapted varieties of plants. The goal could be to learn how food sources are impacted by climate change. Some seed libraries focus on preserving genetic integrity of plants through promotion of non-GMO seeds. Just some things to consider on what will be the goal of your seed library. So here's a picture of the seed library at the Plymouth District Library where we work. We ask people to limit to 2 packets at a time, but it's an honor system and it's okay if they take more, as long as they don't wipe out the whole collection. Leave some for others. But we don't police that carefully. But we do ask that they only take 2 packets at a time. People can donate seeds directly to the library. The staff person who's responsible for the collection. She asks what kinds of seeds they are, whether they're hybrid or non-GMO, the source of the seed, were they commercially purchased or taken from their own garden plants, for example. Our goal is more about convenience and access, lifelong learning, connected to gardening, sustainability, environmentalism, and entertainment value for garden hobbyists, and also, the healthfulness of eating homegrown food. So those are some of the goals that our library has for our seed library. We have a small budget to purchase seeds, so there's always something available for people to take. And a volunteer packages the seeds into the little brown seed envelopes that you see in the picture. So inside each envelope are enough seeds to start an average plot of that item. The smaller the seed, the more there are in the envelope, whereas something larger like beans or cucumbers, there might be like 10 or so in the envelope. It's too hard to count the tiny little herb seeds, for example, so they just put a little handful in. We started to promote our collection more heavily last year. So we held a seed saving program in July, and we started doing more outreach and social media posts about our seed library last year. This year we've continued that. We've done some more seed starting and propagation type programming, more garden topic programs in the spring and early summer. We host a booth at the farmers market each year in May, where we give out either seed starter kits or seed paper. We've done one year, and an information sheet about how to grow whatever we're giving out. And we promote our seed library that way. We had mostly herbs at the farmers market because they're easy to grow, and everyone knows what cilantro and basil are, oregano, chives, things like that. They're not wild card seeds that people don't plant. They're just, anyone can use these things that we give out at our farmers market. There isn't much activity on the seed library from about maybe October to February in Michigan. People start their seeds, late February, early March for summer planting, so it starts to have activity again in February. In late summer, the seed savers start to bring seeds in from the crops that they grew throughout the summer. So that's sort of how the calendar, that's a flurry activity in the late winter, early spring. Once things are planted, there's not a lot going on in the middle of the summer, and then in the late summer and the fall, people start bringing in the plants from their harvest. My library also has a propagation station. We actually made a giant plant wall, which is what you see in the photo here. It was a project that the person who runs our seed library just went all out, and it's fantastic. It's really kind of cool. Your library could do plant shares or propagation libraries that allow patrons to donate cuttings of, or small potted plants. That you can grow either from the cuttings or just to take the little potted plants. It can teach science, ecology, and of course plant propagation. It can promote self-reliance and self-sufficiency. You could do spring plant swaps or fall bulb swap programs. It's important that someone keeps track of what is donated, though, to the propagation station so that they can be, properly identified, and to make sure that only the healthy plants are shared. And as always, here we have some links and articles for discussion and for further exploration. They're all linked in the module. So there's some interesting things to click on and read through here. And for our last discussion of the course, some ideas of things you can discuss. As always, you can discuss whatever you like that caught your interest this week. But some discussion starters. What kinds of interesting items have you seen in a Library of Things collections? That is one of my favorite questions, and I always love the just cool answers we get to this. Somebody once said that their library circulates ghost hunting kits. That may be one of the more unique things that I've heard of in a Library of Things. That's kind of fun. And what kinds of items do you think would circulate well in your library, and why do you think those specific items would do well? It has been a great class, and good luck to everybody. Have a great